A man reports to the police after hearing screams of a woman in the apartment next door. When the police arrived, they found the woman on the ground lying dead with a cloth around her neck in a knot. The movie shifts to 3 years ago. Loretta was working as a desk reporter for a newspaper. Being a woman working in the paper at that time, she was given typical small columns to write about that made no impact. She was following the murders that were happening, and wanted to report on that case. But due to restrictions from her boss, she could not follow up on this case. Loretta began investigating on her own to find a clue that would connect all the murders. Loretta went out of her way, went door to door and contacted police authorities. She met up with them while they were drinking at a pub, just so that she could obtain information on the case. When she reported back to her boss with the new information about the case and was given a chance to write a report. This report got a lot of coverage as it was about 3 women who had been murdered the same way. The police authorities did not like this and the commissioner demanded that the reporting be stopped immediately. However, after the 4th murder, which was carried out in the same way, Loretta was given a chance by her editor to carry out the murder investigations and report on the serial killings. She was paired with Jean Cole, who was a reputable investigative journalist in the same newspaper. Both of them started working together, and developed a good professional and friendship bond. Their section was published in the newspaper along with their faces exposing their identity. Jean and Loretta discovered that the serial killer was targeting women who were living alone. Similar serial killings were reported in Michigan and New York too. Loretta and Jean met up with people to obtain statements and searched for all the possible information. They found out that although the cases of Michigan and New York were reported to Boston police, they never took them seriously. It was a possibility that it was the same man who was killing in 3 different areas. When they discovered this, Loretta and Jean wrote an article exposing the incompetence of police. This brought the whole institute a bad name, and in return the two suffered a lot of heat from the police officers as well as their supporters. Even their families went against them. Loretta had to suffer fallout with her husband, who was not happy at his wife leaving and coming back at odd hours trying to follow up this case. Her kids were being ignored in all this too. Although, in the beginning of the movie, he was shown supportive, however, this had faded as the case grew prominent and demanded more attention and time. At one point Loretta feared that she was being watched by someone, but was unsure if it was an angry policeman or a stalker. The women started getting a lot of hate mail, which made their work even tougher. Despite these hurdles, they kept at their work and linked a man named Albert DeSalvo to the murders, who was already a registered sex offender. They found that Albert was already in prison at that time but was released early. Loretta had an acquaintance in the police department who decided to help her. She had interviewed a woman who was about to become the next victim and made her identify the prospective killer. She pointed to a man different than Albert. He was named George, but the police did not make this new information public. Inside the prison, a deal was cut with Albert where he confessed to murdering 13 women, but this confession was of no use as his clever lawyer had made an arrangement, due to which this confession could not be held up in court. This meant that Albert would not be charged with the murders, even though he had confessed. Tired of the bad repute to the institution and wanting to be done with this case, the police decided to give a public statement that Albert had confessed to his crime and was already in prison for a long time. However, Loretta and Jean knew this was not the truth. Loretta managed to have a meeting with Albert and he had agreed, but he was killed inside the prison before they could meet. Loretta and Jean gathered as much information as they could and met up with some prison inmates also, but the Boston Strangler was never found. In real life and in movie too, they could not find one man that could be linked to all the murders. At the end, the most logical theory that could have been deduced was that the Boston Strangler was not just one person but different people, who took advantage of the guy before them, and killed the women in the same way the previous one had. This had created a series of gruesome violence against women in which more than one person was involved. In 2013, Albert's DNA was linked to the last murder, but the case of the first 12 murders still remains unresolved. Loretta and Jean continued to work in their respective fields and gained high praises for their work. They also continued to be friends. George is still in the Boston prison as one of the last few individuals linked to the case of the Boston Strangler. I hope you liked this explanation of the movie The Boston Strangler. Subscribe to the channel to watch explanation of latest movies. Thank you for watching.